Hello everyone. This lecture is on Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes was born in the year 1588 CE, and he died in the year 1679 CE. In a similar sense of Hobbes and David Hume, I dismiss religion simply from the fact that it is largely indistinguishable from superstition and composed with delusive ideas. Thus, history and philosophy exclude theology, because it absolutely does not lend itself to the kinds of causal explanations required for true knowledge, or scientia. The phenomenon of religion was extremely pertinent, however, in our human cognitive development, given that spirits, gods, and deities were our first attempt at explaining and understanding the world around us. Philosophy was our second attempt, and now science is our third attempt. Hobbes lived for 91 years. He was born in England, and with Machiavelli before him and John Locke after him, he is one of the founders of modern political philosophy. His major work, published in 1651, has all but eclipsed his other contributions in philosophy, history, and science. Hobbes, like many of the ancient pre-Socratic philosophers of classical antiquity, was a materialist and an empiricist who thought that everything is physical, and that all said physical phenomena can be satisfactorily explained in terms of natural occurrences in the world. Sensation and perception are the source of all our ideas, reflection being the result of causal events that starts with objects in the real world and the sense organs of the body, which in turn has an effect on the brain. Hobbes decided to move to France, which he lived from 1640 to 1650, to escape from the civil war that was occurring in England at the time. He was a royalist, a fact that lends to the view that his political philosophy's defense of absolutism is a defense of absolute monarchy. But in fact, his views are consistent with republicanism also. The key point is that in order to prevent the destructions caused by civil war and dissension, the central authority, or the Leviathan of government, whatever form, must be absolute. Hobbes regarded membership of political society as the only guarantee of individual safety, for without insurance against the depredations of each on each and the unpredictable and violent conditions of an uncontrolled state, life would indeed be, quote, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short, end quote. In the absence of an authority, there can be no security. Not even self-defense pacts formed by select groups of individuals would be sufficient. Only the sure source of safety is a common power, a central authority, a huge monster, an unlimited power. The central authority's existence is derived from the consent of each member of society to accept its unlimited power over them, whether an individual person, a group, or any entity possessing plenary powers. Quote, for by this authority given him by every particular man in the commonwealth, he has the use of so much power and strength conferred on him, that by terror thereof he is enabled to form the wills of them all, to peace at home and mutual aid against their enemies abroad. And in him consists the essence of the commonwealth, one person, of whose acts a great multitude, by mutual contracts between one with another, have made themselves every one the author, to the end he may use the strength and means of them all, as he shall think expedient for their peace and common defense. End quote. That comes from Thomas Hobbes' work, The Leviathan. This sovereign power, thus instituted by the agreement of those whom it has complete sway, is thereafter no obligation to its subjects, beyond ensuring their safety. The sovereign, therefore, must have two inalienable and unlimitable rights in order to fulfill its function properly. It cannot have its power taken away or limited by its subjects, and it can never be changed with treating its subjects unjustly. The justification for attributing these rights is that the sovereign embodies the will of the people, having been created by them for their own safety. To seek to overthrow the sovereign would therefore be self-contradictory, challenging their own reason for creating it in the first place. Quote, by this institution of a commonwealth, every particular human is author of all the sovereign does, and consequently that they complain of injury from their sovereign, complains of what thereof they are author, what whereof they are author thereof. Only the sovereign can decide on matters of war and peace, on the relations with other states, what can be done in the state, property, punishments, official appointments, the rewards of honors, and all matters of law. These powers are the essence of sovereignty, Hobbes says. They are, quote, the marks whereby a man may discern in what man, or assembly of men, the sovereign power is placed and resides, end quote. The existence of the sovereign arises in order to ensure the safety of its subjects. If, however, the sovereign fails in this duty, the overriding concern of the subjects for their own self-preservation gives them the right to disobey and to rebel, if necessary. Self-preservation is a necessity, and a duty that is not cancelled when all other freedoms are yielded up. Hobbes, therefore, brings into focus a number of ideas that have been significant in subsequent liberal thought: equality, individual rights, the location of ultimate political authority and the consent of the people, even though, in his theory, it was a case of, quote, one man, one vote, one time, end quote, and a view of liberty as that which is not forbidden by law. The ideas of liberty and natural rights prompt significant discussion. Hobbes' definition of liberty undermines a better notion that he called, quote, republican liberty, end quote, which is, quote, liberty as the absence of dependence. Free people are those who do not live under any form of arbitrary power, whether or not it is exercised. Here we have a critique of Hobbes, and the view that liberty is merely a lack of interference or restraint or absence of impediment to motion is insufficient for people to be generally free. However benign the existence of power, its mere existence changes free people into slaves. Free people can exist only in a free state. The history of the idea of republican liberty from ancient Rome to the Renaissance was promoted during the Civil War in England in the 1640s, and as Parliament argued against the Crown's claim to hold discretionary prerogative rights, aka arbitrary rights, superior to those of Parliament or individuals. Later, John Milton would be an exemplary defender of the republican view of liberty. In the early writing of Hobbes, in The Elements of Law, he argues that the authority which resides in an absolute sovereign is derived from the voluntary surrender to it of the power that individuals otherwise hold over themselves, and that individuals do this in the interests of their own welfare. In his next book, Deceive, Hobbes countered the idea that the mere fact of government, by its very existence, makes people slaves, this being the republican view, by arguing that liberty is, quote, absence of impediments to motion, end quote, and that this is consistent with there being an absolute sovereign, the Leviathan. In the Leviathan, this definition of liberty was redefined to, quote, absence of external restraints, end quote. This definition was a pertinent moment in the history of political thought, for it introduced a clear distinction between liberty and power, proffering an alternative definition in which the presence of freedom is construed entirely as absence of impediments rather than absence of dependence. But this misses the point concerning the many ways in which true liberty is rendered unattainable. Liberty as absence of restraint is the idea of liberty which may be understood as the basic kind of liberty, but this is inconsistent with the idea of liberty as absence of dependence, and another idea that there are fundamental rights to kinds of liberty that demand protection against any form of authority. The civil liberty of freedom and expression inviolate aspects of one's private life, assembly with other people, and freedom from oppression by arbitrary authority, etc. This debate vividly continues. But we can be thankful for the works of Thomas Hobbes. We can look at Thomas Hobbes and we can critique him in comparison to our modern understanding of liberty, power, knowledge, and control. I hope that this lecture has been informative. I hope that we have been able to learn something today from the writings of Thomas Hobbes, who not only was a very good statesman, but also understood the rights of the people as important for their own safety and self-preservation. Thank you.